أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. Picking up with the legendary military ideology series of the Prophet Alayhi'Ssalam's legendary military ideology. After completing several videos prior to which are included but not limited the legendary military governance and the legendary military nation, as well as the legendary military legacy, with the legendary military career of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi. So we do understand that on the Muhammadu Gambia channel, all such videos are available from the Madanite period, or the Hijriya to Medina, if you may, all the way to the current series that we're on, picking up from page number 168. This should be in volume 2, excuse me, instead of volume 1, which is displaying. And this should be video number 108. We're going to pick up now, and this would be in reference to the battle, or the battle of Siffeen's ceasefire. In reference to how is it that the arbitration between the commander of the believers, Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and the cousin of his, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. Picking up from the point F in terms of such arbitration. Ibn Taymiyyah said, open quote, this is indicative of the soundness of Ali's Caliphate, that it was obligatory to obey him, and that the one who called for obeying him was calling people to paradise, and the one who called for fighting him was calling people to the hellfire. Even if he had some justification for that based on misinterpretation, it is also indicative that it was not permissible to fight Ali, the commander of the believers, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, based on that. The one who was fighting him was wrong, even if he thought he had a reason to fight or was transgressing without any justification. This is the more correct of the two views of our companions. It is the ruling that those who fought Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu were absolutely wrong. This is also the view of the leading jurist who based this research on that ayah of the Quran, which was mentioned, Surah number 49, ayah number 9, with regard to fighting rebels and transgressors who have their own justification. He also said, open quote, although Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu was closer to the truth than his opponents, and although Ammar was slain, martyred by the group that was in the wrong, as is mentioned in the text, we have to believe everything that came from Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and submit to the truth in totality. We should not follow whims and desires or speak without knowledge. Rather, we should follow the path of knowledge and justice, which means following the Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. As for those who adhere to part of the truth and not other parts, this is the cause of division and disputes. G. Abdul Aziz ibn Baz said the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam said to in the hadith of Ammar, open quote, a hadith is the saying of the Prophet sallallahu, peace and blessings be upon him, sallallahu alayhi salatu wassalam. And we also have to try, just to give a brief pause to clarify the non-English verbiage to help our recent siblings who have embraced Al-Islam to be more acquainted. And of course, we can pick it slowly back up to the Arabia terms, which are quite the reward. But anyhow, open quote, as far as Abdul Aziz ibn Baz, who said Ammar will be killed by, or the saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Ibn Baz is referring to that. Ammar will be killed by the group that is in the wrong, and he was killed by Muawiyah and his companions in the battle of Siffeen. Therefore, Muawiyah and his companions were transgressors and were in the wrong, but their stance was based on their own reasoning, and as well as they thought that they were doing right in seeking vengeance for the murder of Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan. Sa'id Hawass said after Ammar, whom the text confirmed would be killed by the group that was in the wrong, was killed, it became clear to those who had been hesitant about Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu was in the right, and that fighting on his side was obligatory. Hence Ibn Umar expressed his regret for keeping out of it, and he felt sorry for that because he had abandoned his duty, which was to support the true leader against those who had rebelled against him without proper justification, as was stated by the jurist. 2.2.7, refuting the statement of Muawiyah that Ammar ibn Yasir was killed by those who brought him to the battlefield. The majority of the companions and tabi'un understood. The companions and the tabi'un are those who did not witness Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they did witness companions. They are the tabi'un, they are the predecessors. So they understood from the words of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, Ammar ibn Yasir, which said you will be killed by the group that is in the wrong. That what was meant by such was the army of Muawiyah, even though Muawiyah and his army may be excused for basing their decision on their own reasoning, as their aim was to do the right thing. But what they did was not the right thing, and Ali's group was closer to the truth than they were, as the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said. Even though the scholars did not like Muawiyah's interpretation, as we shall see below, they tried to find an excuse for him because he based his decision on his own reasoning. Very important to note how the sword, the double-edged sword, would work in favor of those who try to do good, although they are transgressors. With regard to the Prophet ﷺ's word, he will call them to paradise and they will call him to hellfire, meaning Ammar ibn Yasir. Ibn Hajar says if it is said that he was killed at Siffeen when he was with Ali, and those who killed him were on Muawiyah's side, and there was a group of companions with Muawiyah, then how can we say that they were calling people to hellfire? The answer is that they thought that they were calling him to paradise, and they had their own reasoning for that. So there should be no blame on them for following what they thought best. What is meant by calling to paradise is calling to the means and the end that led to paradise, which is obeying the Khalif. The leadership, what Ammar was doing was calling them to obey Ali ibn Abi Talib, who was the Khalif, who was to be obeyed at that time. They were calling him to something other than that, but they are to be excused because they had their own reasoning that they thought was correct. End quote. Excuse me. Al-Qurtubi said, Ibn Abu al-Ma'ali said in Al-Irshad, open quote, Ali radiallahu anhu became the true Imam or leader after he was appointed to the Khalifat. And those who fought him were transgressing, but thinking positively of them requires us to think that their intentions were good, even though they got it wrong. He also said Ali radiallahu anhu responded to Muawiyah's argument by saying, open quote, then in that case, the Messenger of Allah alayhi killed Hamza when he took him out with him in the army. What Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu said was to draw the attention that again, the implications of such a statement. This was suggested by Imam Al-Hafidh Abu Al-Khattab ibn Dihya. Ibn Kathir said Muawiyah's suggestion that Ammar was killed by those who brought him out to our swords is a very far-fetched misinterpretation, because if that was so, then the commander of the army would be the killer of those who were killed fighting for the sake of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, as he brought them to the swords of the enemy. End quote. Ibn Taymiyyah said, open quote, I do not know of anyone who held this view among the followers of the four Imams and others among Ahl Sunnah, although it is the opinion of a large number of the Marwanis and those who agreed with them. End quote. Ibn al-Qayyim said, commenting on this misinterpretation, yes, the misinterpretation of the people of Syria is invalid because the Prophet ﷺ said to Ammar, you will be killed by the group that is in the wrong. They said, we did not kill him, rather he was killed by those who brought him and make him stand in front of our spears. This is an invalid interpretation that is contrary to the wording of and apparent meaning. The one who killed him is the one who did the action of killing, not the one who had him on his side fighting with him. 2.2.8, who was the killer of Ammar ibn Yasir? Abu al-Ghadiya al-Juhani said, speaking on his killing of Ammar, open quote, on the day of Siffeen, I marched to the area between the two armies, and I saw a man with his awra showing. I stabbed him on his knees with a spear, and he fell. His helmet fell from his head, and I struck him on his head. Then I realized that it was the head, then I realized that it was the head of Ammar. Thus Ammar was killed. The narrator said Abu al-Ghafidi asked for water, and water was brought in a glass, but he refused to drink from it. Then water was brought in an earthenware vessel, and he drank from that. A man said, he is too pious to drink from a glass, but he is not too pious to kill Ammar. Amr ibn al-Az radiallahu anhu commented on this report, saying, open quote, I heard the Messenger of Allah alayhi say, the one who kills Ammar and the one who strips the body from him, or the one who strips the booty from him, will be in hellfire. Ibn Kathir said, open quote, it is known that Ammar was in Ali's army at the battle of Siffeen, and he was killed by the Syrian companions of Muawiyah. The one who actually killed him was called Abu al-Ghadiya, who was an ordinary man, and it was said that he was a companion. Ibn Hajar said, our view of the companions who were involved in these wars is that they had their own reason and justifications for doing so. The one who bases his action on valid reasoning but gets it wrong will have one reward. And if this is the case for ordinary people, then it is likely to be even more applicable to the companions. End quote. Inshallah, we will end this one here at page number 172, beginning of the third paragraph. This is your humble and respectable orator Muhammad Israel, and we send glory and praise salutations to the creator of all that exists, for indeed in sending salutations and praising him is all bounty, goodness and rewarding. He is all merciful. He is the sublime. He is all compassionate. And our final saying is all praises are due to him and him alone. And we send salutations upon all of the messengers, all of the prophets, and our final destiny. We look forward to it in meeting our Creator as He created us, sustains us, will give us life, death, and resurrect us. Wassalamu alaikum, and peace be upon those who are seekers of the truth.